Faction Wars hard is really hard, even for endgame players. But the good news is, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Hey guys, SMZ here, we're back playing Raid Shadow Legends, and today I'm going to be sharing some tips on how you can make Faction Wars hard a little more manageable. So, Faction Wars hard has come out a week ago, a bit more than that, and it's been quite difficult, right? The thing is that you can go about it a bit slower, right? Don't need to rush it. If you remember normal Faction Wars, when you're first chasing Lydia, it feels impossible. It feels like the end of the world. You don't have the champs, you don't have this, you don't have that. And then you progress through the game and you finally start getting the champions. It's gonna be the same thing here. With the way the game is heading, the direction the game is taking, there's so much power creep in the game. This is going to get simplified as well one day. It feels difficult, and I'm going to be sharing some tips what I've been using so far. I've not been doing the Faction Wars in much detail because I was traveling, but I found some tips that I would like to share with you guys. So number one tip that I'm going to share, and because Skinwalker is the first one, or the unlock for the first time for me today, the very first tip is do not do this. Do not just send in your best damage dealers, especially if you have an endgame account. So for example, if I just send my map, or I can send Marius and 5 food, for example, the trouble is I'm suffering from success. First world problems. Marius just kills everything with his A1. That's not what you want. So I'll end the battle. There's a free champion that you can get by using the link in my description. That is Narma the Return, a great champion to battle the Demon Lord. And you can get her alongside other crazy good epic champions like Anax, like Uugo, and like Mausoleum Mage as you progress through the game. How to get these champions for free? Here's how to do it. You go into your Plarium Play and log out of your current account. Click the link in the description and register with a brand new email address. Download the game and then play the tutorial, and you will find Narma sitting there chilling in your inbox, and you can get all of these crazy good epic champions as you progress through the game. Do not miss out on this opportunity. Click the link in the description and get these cool champions. And you have to do certain things to get the 3 stars, and for those certain things, what I found most useful is you need at most 1 good damage dealer, sometimes 2 if you're lacking the damage. What you need the most of is control, crowd control. And crowd control debuffs like stun, like provoke, like freeze, all of these debuffs are very useful for this content, because you need to place a lot of different debuffs, you need to manipulate turn meter, you need to do a lot of different things, and that's basically how you do it. So for example, here what I would do is I will not pick Marius, not at all. I don't want to kill them too quickly. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to pick a few crowd control champions. For Skinwalkers, one of the best crowd control champions is this guy right here, Gnarlhorn. He's a rare champion. He's an amazing rare champion. He has a provoke on his A2 on a 3-turn cooldown, and he has an unkillable on himself, so it's very difficult to kill. He's so good, I've built 2 of him. So I'm going to use both of them, and this is the first time I'm doing it, because the next thing I will check is what is the condition to get the 3 stars. For this particular stage, it's placing 20 poison debuffs. That's a lot of poison debuffs, or at least it feels like it. One of the things you can do is you look for champions who have poison. So one of the things I'm noticing is a lot of the past fusions, which were underwhelming, they have become quite useful because of this hard faction wars. And one of those champions is, I mean, he's not really, because Nishak is also used in a lot of arena battles in Bommel and such, but a lot of other champions in other factions have become useful, which weren't being used anywhere else rather. But Nishak is a great poisoner. So what he does is I want to look at his kit. Thank you very much. So he places bombs, right? And then he decreases the cooldown, he pops the bombs, and when the bombs pop out, because of his passive, he places poisons, a lot of poisons. And these are irremovable poisons. One of the sneaky things that Plarium has done is, if you look at these waves, especially the first wave, they've put like 2 or 3 champions who can cleanse and place block debuffs, which is really annoying, which is why that control comes in, which is where this provoke will help. Another champion I will bring in is, you either need to bring a reviver or you need to bring a healer. Reviver if you're rather early mid-game. Early game, I mean, won't have the stats to do faction wars anyhow as well, but if you can, then you definitely need to bring a reviver and a healer. For me, another fast fusion champion in this particular case would be Uugo. What Uugo does is he places decreased attack, which helps with survivability. He places block buffs, which is an amazing skill, and he has a revive, right? In case something goes wrong, he has a revive, and he can steal buffs from the enemy, which is all amazing. And now, so this team in general would be fine, but I would bring in 1 more poisoner, for example. So Steel Skull is a great poisoner for this faction, for this stage, and what he does is he places poisons on his A1. And what I've done is he has healing abilities as well. But what I've done is, and again, this is another tip that is very useful, is you go into your champions, and cool thing is, thank you Plarium, when you go into the champions from the Faction Wars window, much like the Cursed City, it already filters, for example, for the Skinwalkers. So I will look at Steel Skull. Where are you, Mr. Steel Skull? There he is. I've put him in a Toxic set. So in case, just in case, you don't have any Poisoners with you, then the Toxic set is great. And it's the same with having a good Stun set or two. It's the same with having a good, what's the other set? One is Stun, I think the other is Provoke. So these sets, you should get at least 1 or 2 good sets that you can move around and use on a lot of other champions to fulfill that 3-star criteria. So Steel Skull is already a poisoner. I'm gonna be bringing him in anyhow. Put him in Toxic so he can place even more poisons. I have other champions available as well, but this will be my team for this particular fight. I don't need that much crowd control in 2 Provokers, but it's good to have, right? I can jump into the run, but before I do so, I want to share one more tip, my very, very important tip. So that tip is going to be right here in the Great Hall in the area bonuses. So if you notice something Plarium, I'm pretty sure will be kicking themselves, is when they introduce the area bonuses, they introduce this grade level, the grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, and grade 4. Not grade 4, only grade 3. And this is basically in terms of the inflation that is in the game, with how many medals it takes to upgrade to the next level, with grade 3 taking the most medals, being the most difficult. Faction Wars, because it was normal Faction Wars, they kept it at grade 1, which means it's very easy to upgrade it very high. So for example, I took my Ignore Defense right now to level 5, and it didn't take me much. So if you just count, I'm in gold, right? 25, 75, that's 100, 150, that's 250, 450, and this is around 700 medals to get to level 5 already. Now compare that to a grade 3 like a Sand Devils, Phantom Shogun, or Cursed City. It would take me thousands, right? Multiple thousand to get to the same stage. So people should take advantage of this. If you are a rather mid-game account or a early late game account, then you would prioritize Ignore Defense. I'm doing Ignore Defense just because initially that's the first thing generally I go for when I'm looking at the area bonuses. In this case, you might also want to upgrade your accuracy or your speed. They both will help, especially accuracy, because you are going to be like the accuracy required to land some of these debuffs is quite high. So accuracy is a good place to start. Speed is a good place to start. Ignore Defense as well. Ignore Defense, you have to be a bit careful if you're a late game account, because you will have the damage, especially on the early stages, to kill the waves rather quickly. So if your Ignore Defense is too high, that might end up being a problem. But I'm pretty sure once we go into the later stages, into stage 20, stage 21, the Ignore Defense will come in handy. So I would recommend like going crazy on this. It's going to be very easy to fill all of these. I'm going to go crazy and fill in my Ignore Defense, my accuracy, my speed, all of that jazz. So that's another tip. So with that said, one tip I've given is about the area bonuses. Another one is about having gear sets, stun sets, and provoke sets and poison sets available to switch around on those champions. And then obviously keeping your crowd control champions like this Gnarlhorn right here. So let's jump into the fight. I'm going to showcase how one of these fights go. Again, I'm doing it for the very first time myself. Let's go ahead with this team. So with any fight, with any new content in the game, you don't want to auto it immediately, otherwise it takes kind of the fun away from the game, at least in my opinion. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start with manualing, and with my Uugo, I'm going to just place block buffs. So in this wave, there are 3 champions who are cleansers, and 2 of them have block debuffs. So Kaja is in the middle. She is annoying because she can cleanse, she can revive, as well as she can put block debuffs. It's the same case with this gal right here, and same with her. 3 champions that you have to be very careful about, which is why the crowd control, for example here in the case of provoke, is very helpful. I was able to provoke almost all of them except her, which is why the second provoker comes into play. Again, the accuracy requirement is high, as well as this is negative affinity, right? Which is why landing the provoke is a bit difficult. But I'm going to start placing poisons with my Steel Skull. So what I'm going to try to do is, because I do want to place poisons, a lot of them, I'm going to try to target either neutral affinity or weak affinity. So since Steel Skull is Spirit, I'm going to target either Spirit or Void or Force affinity, just not Magic affinity, right? So let's actually go for this. I placed 3 poisons already. And one other cool thing you can always check is at any point you can press this pause button and you can see where you are at with the 3 stars. Beat stage obviously in progress, 5 champions, nobody's died. And by the way, if one of your champions gets killed, you can revive them and this condition will be met again. So it's not like they can't die during the fight. They just have to be alive when the fight ends. From the 20 poisons, I've already landed 3. So let's continue. Now, Nishak comes in. He's an amazing champion. I'm going to try to place the bombs on everybody. He gets an extra turn with his A2 now. Now the bombs are ready to land. Still, she can still cleanse. So I'm going to land the second provoke as well. It lands. There are more poisons. There are more poisons. And all these are landing. I think it's because of Nishak. This is already done. That's actually pretty cool. So now all I have to do is just kill them. Now I don't need to worry about anything. But this was kind of a rather easy one because Nishak is just that good, basically. But many times you have to prolong the fight unnecessarily. And that's fine. Try not to, when you want to land the poisons or the stuns or the freezes and you are still missing. So for example, if my counter was not at 20, if it was at 5 or 6, what I would do is I would not kill their reviver. I know Kaya in the middle is the reviver. I would not kill her because I want her to revive the allies so I can place more stuns, I can place more freezes. That's kind of the strategy here. At this point in time, I can just continue the fight. I'm actually going to quit it and I'm going to do it at another time because it's not very interesting to watch. So let me just end the battle right here. It's going to be similar in basically all the different stages. I can't actually see the next ones, but let me go on Ogryn because Ogryn did come up previously. So for example, in this first stage, it was similar with 20 poison debuffs. I used Eurogrim. Eurogrim places a lot of poisons on his A1. Poisons on his A3, and I think maybe I have him also, or at least I did once. I still do, still in a toxic set. See, he has poisons in his kit, but I am doubling down. I'm giving him even more poison to complete that effectively. And now one final tip for you guys, and you'll see this here. As I said, I was traveling, I didn't have enough time to do all the 3 stars. You'll notice 2 of them are not 3-starred because they were either taking more time. I would have to put stun sets on people, and I'm pretty sure I didn't use this team to do this mission. It's completely fine to just do a star mission for now. Completely fine. You see I've done this in cases where I didn't have the time right now. I know I can do it, I just don't have the time right now. So it's completely fine to just complete the stage with 2 stars for now, and you can still move along this chain and collect rewards. You can always come back. Remember that this, as I said at the start, this is a marathon, it's not a sprint. Faction Wars hard is here to stay. It's not going away. It's going to become routine. It's going to become normal every single day. So just skip a stage when you have to. It's completely fine. You can come back to it at a later point in time. With that said, if you do have time every day, then Tag Team Arena, doing 5 battles here is actually very useful to get 5 or 6 extra keys for Faction Wars. So that's something I would highly recommend. And yeah, I know a lot of people recommend this, and I would as well, is when at the start of the week, when there's a reset, you can basically put your defense to nothing, so that you will drop down and you will get battles like this that you can do very quickly, and then put your defense back on at the end of the week so that you don't drop down. I'm personally a bit lazy, so do as I say, not as I do. I don't remove my defenses, and I'll take these fights right now, but then later I get the difficult fights, and I'm fine with taking the difficult fights even if they're 5. So yeah, that's another thing to get the keys. I hope these tips have been useful. If so, thank you very much for watching, and if these tips have been useful, then leave a like and leave a comment as well. Let me know what strategies you're using to complete Faction Wars hard. It is very new for everybody, so we can learn from each other. Leave it down in the comments, and I'm happy to also shout you out and give these recommendations in the next video. Thank you very much for watching till the end, and see you next time.